Hello, I'm Annabel Brady-Smith. I'm the Communications Director of the Association of Investment Companies. There's evidence that investors are repositioning their portfolios away from the US in favor of other regions. And President Trump's erratic tariff policymaking has focused investors' minds. Could European investment trusts provide an alternative option? Today, we're taking a look at the challenges and opportunities for European investment trusts amid US trade tariff tensions. I'm delighted to be joined by three managers from the European smaller companies sector. Marcel Stotzel, co-manager of Fidelity European Trust, George Cooke, manager of the Montanaro European Smaller Companies Trust, and Jules Bloch, co-manager of JPMorgan European Discovery Trust. Right, on to the questions. How has Trump's presidency and his tariffs in particular impacted attitudes towards investing in Europe? And we're going to start off with Marcel.
Thanks, Annabelle. Yeah, so I would say the first thing is it's taught all of us to expect the unexpected. That's probably one constant that's going to remain with us through the rest of the year. But I think it's had a number of important impacts. Firstly, obviously, tariffs sectors such as autos, such as luxury goods, such as alcoholic beverages, have really found themselves in the crosshairs of potential Trump tariffs. But I think also equally importantly, it's led people to reconsider the notion of US exceptionalism and basically how far the US can push the envelope, given obviously that their end consumer will be the ones who have to pay the tariffs if any pricing gets pushed through into that market. So it's been really a mix of two worlds around that.
Thanks so much, Marcel. Now, George, how has the presidency and the tariffs affected your European smaller companies trust?
Yes, well, luckily, we no longer really need to guess how investors might react because we can see it within the flows. And indeed, we saw record flows moving out of the US and into Europe on the back of Trump's various announcements. I think this underscores for many investors as well just that value of diversification, which had almost been forgotten after years and years of US leadership, and particularly as concentration to US mega caps was becoming ever higher. And I think the final point to point out here is just the valuation differential between the US and Europe, which has been growing for some time, is such that despite that rapid flow out of the US and into Europe, we still think there's plenty of room left to run here for Europe to essentially catch up from an investment perspective with the US.
Thanks, George. So obviously we are seeing reallocation towards Europe. Jules, how has this whole presidency impacted you and attitudes towards Europe?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say the election of Donald Trump has introduced a lot of uncertainty and volatility. Now, I think there are good reasons to be more positive on Europe. And one of these reasons is actually this election has been a wake-up call for Europe. I mean, you had the Draghi report at the end of last year, which was already a sharp warning about the need for increased spending, for increased integration in Europe. But it's really the speech of the US Vice President in Munich that was a real turning point. Suddenly, Europe realized they couldn't rely on the US anymore. And this resulted in a very strong reaction in Germany, which decided to abandon fiscal austerity and materially increase fiscal spending. And we think this is an absolute game changer. And this would benefit companies which are European localized, which have business in Europe, such as small caps, especially because the small caps will be less sensitive to tariffs because only 15% of their revenues come from the US.